show, we will bring in leaders and representatives to discuss topics such as credit counseling, home buyer training, mortgage lending, property insurance, fair housing practices, and so much more. Again, that's Tuesday nights at 9:30 right here on WLAE.
We're local and enlightening. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Niette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Niette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we will cover all the home teams, with the exception of the Pels. We've still got a few weeks before they get into camp. Saints, LSU, Tulane, all on tap to break it down for us. Well, I'll tell you this right now. Nobody does it like he does in this city. Again, breaking down film, telling you what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. He covers all sports. He is Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back. Been a minute.
Yes, it has. Good to have you. Fantastic stuff going on over at Fox 8. You guys have a show almost every night. Of course, you catch Sean on my show, on my radio show at 4:35 every Tuesday. You've got the Overtime Podcast, which I think is an outstanding podcast. Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm gonna give you about 10 minutes. Let us know all about it.
Well, look, I'll just make it easy. Every night, Sunday through Friday. So Sunday through Friday, every night there is a show on at 10:30 or 10:35 on Fox 8. Tonight will be the final bet. Tomorrow will be Fox 8 Football Friday. That'll be a little bit later because it's going to be after college football.
Yes.
And then Sunday morning, obviously, we have the Fox 8 Live Tailgate from 10 to 11. Extra half hour. That now on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We do a post-game show after every game on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. I was able to catch up with Spencer Rattler one-on-one after last week's game. So we'll see how that goes every week to see who we could be talking to right after a win or a loss when it comes to the Saints. You mentioned the podcast. It's kind of become it was a little bit of a hobby, but now it's kind of become really an integral part of not just what we do in sports, but the news operation at Fox 8 has really embraced it as well. So that's been great. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, wherever you get your podcast, drop one on Wednesday, but we'll have another one done on Friday. So check that out. And it re-airs obviously on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. So got a lot of content if that's what you want, because it's all on Fox 8 or the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network.
Yeah, which is really good. Again, of course, the Pels will be on that network very, very soon as well, as they'll start camp just around the beginning of, actually, again, within the next couple of weeks. They'll start the end of September, and of course, middle October, the season will start. But we'll hold off on the Pels.
We're just getting into football.
We got enough going on right now.
Right.
We'll hold off on the Pels. Right. All right, let's start with the New Orleans Saints. We'll get into the game in a moment, but a really, really big story that came out on Wednesday. Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Times-Picayune advocate, and NOLA.com breaking this story. The Saints and the state are in negotiations, which again could culminate as early within the next 2 to 3 days or more for a new lease for the New Orleans Saints and the state. The new lease would be 10 years with 4 5-year extensions. The Saints would have the right to exercise each extension. That would put the new lease through 2025. There's a relocation fee that would be for any new owner that would buy the team. Right now it's about $250,000. You would think that's not a lot of money for a billionaire that would buy a team. So you would want to see again how that would maybe grow. They're basing this a lot off what the Bills are doing out in Buffalo right now in terms of again how the lease would be structured if there would ever be the team would ever leave, that the state of New York, in this case the state of Louisiana, would be able to recoup some of the money they put into the dome in terms of renovations. They're about a little bit over $300 million right now. That's $250 million is what is being negotiated. They got to get this done before September the 17th because the NFL will be meeting on again future Super Bowls, and the city, the state, and the Saints would like to be able to host a Super Bowl in 2031. So it's got to get done before then in order to be able to have a Super Bowl, because teams again have to be locked in with their state or city with a long-term contract, or the Super Bowl would not come to that city. It sounds like a great deal. It sounds like Mrs. Benson is trying to be able to make sure that, again, no matter what happens to her in the future, if she passes, that, again, the Saints will stay in New Orleans. We know that she's been on the record saying that, again, that when Dennis Lauscher takes over, that, again, one thing she wants to make sure is that if they sell it to local ownership, or at least ownership that will keep it in New Orleans. This is maybe the first step toward that. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, obviously it would be good to get that deal done, because it automatically, from the time that the signatures are signed on the lease, you guarantee 10 more years of the New Orleans Saints in the city of New Orleans. So it's the Saints in the city of New Orleans. So that's obviously a good thing. This lease theoretically would at some point change hands from an ownership standpoint, which is always going to be the tricky part, depending on who that next owner could potentially be. It's hard to talk about right now because obviously Mrs. Benson is still running the team, right, and doing everything she has to do to run the team. But that is where things can certainly get a little interesting if their ownership transfers within the length of this lease, and what protections would be in place for obviously the Saints organization to remain in New Orleans. It would be entrusted with Dennis Lauscher and the Saints sort of hierarchy there to find an owner that would, obviously have the want to remain to keep the Saints in the city of New Orleans, which is obviously big picture. That's the most important thing, right? I mean, that's the most important thing for everything here. So that is an unknown that it's going to be at some point come down the line. But in the meantime, to get a guarantee of 10 more years of the Saints in the city of New Orleans, to me, is obviously a good thing. So good news, positive development. And then, as these leases go, the longer it goes, you get into the lease, you start renegotiating the next lease or the extension in this case. That's always been a little bit of a give and take. And if you could potentially throw a new owner in the mix at some point, could it get even more dicey if that were the case? I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, the fact that they were able to hammer out a deal that looks like both sides are going to be okay with, and guaranteeing the Saints here at least another 10 years is a good thing.
The current lease runs through 2030, so again, that's why it's imperative they get this thing done before the NFL meets for the Super Bowl, because they're looking for the 2031 Super Bowl. And if I'm not mistaken, the current lease also has these rollover extensions in it as well. There's a 5-year rollover that gets it to 2030, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But you're right. In essence, this is a 10-year extension.
Exactly.
Okay. Again, there's no guarantee. Yes, they got the 5-year extensions of the 4 5-year extensions in there, but I think a lot of that depends on ownership. And then, can you tie a new owner who buys the team to the city in which it's domiciled in, if he ultimately wants to move it? And look, we've seen that with the New Orleans Jazz here again back in the '70s. Look, the Jazz were a team that were selling out, had massive crowds in the dome for Pistol Pete Maravich and the Jazz. And look, when Batistone wanted to move it out west, and he ended up in Utah. They took it to court here in New Orleans, but again, the civil courts in New Orleans couldn't really do anything. Ultimately, again, the NBA moved the team, and we didn't see a team until the 2000. Well, it's a late 2002. When the Hornets came to New Orleans. So this is a really good news, and again, more than anything else, it shows the commitment of Mrs. Benson to New Orleans. And look, we already know her trust. The team will be moved into her trust when she passes. passes, and then the hope is again that they will find local ownership that's willing to keep the Saints here. Well, let's say forever.
Yeah, and look, and there are some. You'll start to hear names pop up that
Right.
who could potentially be that could match that description. You know,
There's a guy that makes some chicken.
There's not.
and it ain't Popeyes.
It's not that hard to
Right.
figure out who the. There's only a handful of them that
Right.
would be in the mix
Right.
to be able to afford an NFL franchise. So those names will probably start popping up fairly soon once this lease is signed, sealed, and delivered. But at least for now, both because we know the state and Saints sometimes that's not always
right.
the easiest
Right.
relationship, even though you know they've worked it out. I do think it's a good thing that basically you're going to get at least another decade of Saints football in New Orleans.
For context, John Bel Edwards, again, the former governor, started these negotiations. They did not, again, culminate with an agreement before his term end. And again, to his credit, Governor Landry picked right up.
Yeah.
And again, is going to bring this thing to the finish line, and that's a good thing. And one other thing, again, I will say, and again, this is not a political show. I don't do politics anymore, but I will say again, it surely seems like Governor Landry is focused on New Orleans and trying to make sure the Saints are here long term. The next thing that's going to happen after this is they got to start figuring out what's going to go on with the Pelicans in terms of either a new venue or again a renovated Smoothie King Center. That will be next because again, as we mentioned on this program and the radio show, Commissioner Silva's already come out and said again that the Smoothie King Center is substandard, and they're going to have to do something with that. So we'll see again how that plays out. But that's another lease down the road here. But this is really good news for the Saints, good news for the city. And again, look, we're a tourism-based economy now. We need the Saints for these big-time events. All right. Saints lose to the Cardinals 20-13. I'll get into the game in a moment. I want to talk about injuries because, again, Julian Blackmon tore his right labrum. Now, he expected to have surgery at some point this week. Now, again, first they said he was missed significant time. Some believe that, again, if it's a labrum, he's probably out for the year. Now, he played. The thing about this is he had a right labrum tear last year with Indianapolis in Game 1, just like this, but he played the entire season. Obviously, the severity must be more than what he had in Indianapolis. First of all, what are your thoughts there? He played such a good game on Sunday.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, we talked to Justin Reed after Wednesday in the locker room, and he said, kind of echo what we've all been saying, just kind of what we've seen. He said he's fit like a glove since he's been here. You'd think he'd been here a couple years. Really worked well with Reed, really worked well in the Brandon Staley system, which is a very modern system that really depends on intelligence at the safety position, if we're being honest. When the news came down, I immediately went to the site I go to check the snap counts, and I'm like, because I don't recall him exiting the game at all. Sure enough, he played every single snap. Apparently, it was when he got home that night where the pain started happening. And look, we've all been there, right? Where you hurt yourself and you're in a competitive type situation that adrenaline can take you over. It can carry you to the finish line.
Yes,
Clearly, it did because he played fantastic. He had a great game, almost had an interception in the game.
Right.
Comes back. Gets the MRI or whatever the scans were, and it's revealed he's got a tear. Kellen Moore did confirm he's going to have surgery. So is that going to put him on the shelf for the season? It sure feels that way. So it's a tough blow for a guy that I know Brandon Staley was very high on, for a guy that I know really brought a different dimension to that safety room that they needed. And I thought he was a guy that really, really had fit in well. Now, looks like going to turn to the rookie, Jonas Sanker. So talk about growing up on the job. It's time to grow up because, look, this scheme that they run, like I said, it is dependent on smart safeties doing what they do.
Yeah, and look, one of the reasons why Blackmon was brought in is again, he had played under the Staley system. He knew the Staley system. It was so easy in the transition. That's why one of the reasons why Reed talked about fitting like a glove. The guy knew the defense inside and out. And again, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. The safeties are the ones calling the signals now, right? It's not really the mic.
Well, it's a little. It's kind of there's a lot of communication from both sides there because the linebackers still have to set the front. But yeah, there's a lot of communication from linebacker to safety that must be met, especially in the secondary with the safeties.
Okay, Sanko really looked good in the preseason. And again, he's got 4 years of Virginia Tech, right? Against Virginia, 4 years of Virginia. So, what are your thoughts there? I mean, again, if I only saw one miscommunication, that was the pass where Harrison got behind the defense on Sunday. Now, again, I didn't look at every play like you do, but I only saw really one miscommunication, and I thought that was really, again, when you look at what happened last year with all the miscommunication we saw in the secondary, I said, man, they've really made some great strides. Now you're throwing a rookie back there. How do you think that works?
Well, I wouldn't even characterize that as a miscommunication.
Okay.
He just beat him. He just beat Kool-Aid. It was a man coverage. He just beat him. It was a double move. They got him up the sideline and had a step on him. So, I mean, that could have been some sort of communication before that, but that felt like a really good player beating a second-year player. 2 second-year players there, I guess. My thoughts are he had a great camp. They drafted him for a reason. He had a nose for the football, which was certainly good. He's a guy that didn't seem to be out of position much. He's a guy that really is a short tackler for a safety.
Yeah.
So you drafted the kid. You don't want to always have to play a rookie, but you got a rookie left tackle right now. So it's not like you're not doing it. So to me, trial by fire, get him in there. I mean, you trust him in the preseason, trust him in the regular season, and then now it's probably coming a little quicker than you thought, but it's here, so get him ready to go. And I think the coaching staff understands, and I think they'll tailor the game plan to where they understand they have a rookie playing one of the safety spots.
They have Howden, who has an oblique injury right now. Again, former, I think 5th round pick, if I'm not mistaken. And of course Burgess, who is a guy also that has played in the Staley system, who's on the practice squad. Think any of those guys will see time?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll be active. Depending on the injury with Jordan Howden, we'll see if Burgess gets the standard elevation, which I know is a little tricky thing. Sometimes you'll see the alert where you're assigned to the practice squad or you're doing the standard elevation, but you can only standard elevate a guy 3 times for a season. So you can't do it every week. Sometimes you got to do the official roster spot where you cut someone else and sign someone on. So I'll be very curious to see if Burgess is a guy they call up, just because if you're one down at the safety spot, it doesn't just hurt your safety spot. The guy you move up in his spot, well, now his spot has to get filled probably in the special teams realm.
Yeah.
Plus, if you want a few different packages based off of a unique system they're playing this week, obviously with the wide zone, a lot of different personnel groupings, a lot of heavy personnel groupings, which is something similar they saw last week, obviously, with the Cardinals with a lot of tight ends on the field. But they use 2 backs more than anybody in the NFL, the 49ers I'm talking about. So it certainly feels like from a numbers standpoint, you probably got to not bring up not just one, but maybe 2 players.
Okay.
And it looks like Sanker will be moved up to the starter. We'll see what happens with Howden. And if you want a special teams guy, you probably have to at least embrace the idea or look at the idea of bringing up Burgess as well.
Okay, the other injury from that game that again is significant is Waga injured his knee in the 3rd quarter. I went back and looked at the game. He was struggling. You could see he was struggling in the game, and I've never seen him struggle like that before. When you went back and looked at the tape, what did you see? And again, how significant is this injury?
Because in the way he didn't speak to me, he spoke to Matt Paris with NOLA.com. He was pretty open about it's going to have to be a maintenance routine he has to deal with probably the rest of his career. When I heard that, I was like, man, are we dealing with a situation where it's already there? With Ryan Ramczyk had to deal with a situation that. You're 7, you're 8. I'm not going to panic just yet, but look, he's their best option at right tackle. There's no doubt about that. But he did not look right. He looked slow. He did not have the right leverage. And obviously, if he's got a knee issue and there's no stability, then clearly that's a problem. And guess what? They play a pretty good front this week in the 49ers. And then look, there's a moment there where if you look from where we were standing, he's on the sideline on the bench all by himself. It wasn't an injury tent, just on the sideline by himself. And we were like, was he benched? I mean, what's going on here? And then obviously word gets around that he hurt his knee. He didn't practice Wednesday. We'll see. By the time you watch this, we'll see what the injury report is on Thursday. But this is if this lingers and it's in and out and in and out, man, that could be a major issue for this offensive line that once again they've invested so much in, and that would be so unfortunate. We'll see what happens with Penning this week. I really liked what I saw from the kid Kelvin Banks Jr. I mean, that's a really good player. So got to get Tolly back because he's our best option at right tackle.
You mentioned Penning, again, the toe injury. They didn't think it was going to be a significant injury. It would keep him out a long time. Do you think there's a possibility he'll be back?
Yeah, I do. I don't know about this week. If he missed practice Wednesday, that's concerning. If he misses practice Thursday, you're probably looking at a guy they're going to roll with Radens for one more week. Now, if he's able to get practice at least on a limited basis Thursday or Friday, then maybe there's a chance. But these toe injuries that happened, the Chargers game, my calculations, that would be this Sunday would be 5 weeks. It's 4 to 6. They did not put him on IR. That's key. So that clearly they see the window before the first 4 weeks of the season. So if they missed this week, then you got to really get him back by next week, because then you basically would have used IR if you didn't have to, if you'd have been back before that, or after that. So I think there's a chance, but these toe injuries are tricky. These calf injuries are tricky, especially for offensive linemen, these toe injuries. I mean, I remember talking to Jari Evans, The year when Carl Nix was here, his last year, he had a toe injury he was battling, and he said, "You just don't understand. His toe was like that big. I mean, it was such a difficult thing to have to deal with every week." So it doesn't sound like a big injury, but it very much is for big men.
And believe me, your opponent knows it, and he's stomping on it. There's every chance he gets. You better believe it. The other one is Chase Young. Cam Jordan had an incredible game last week, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, he's got the calf injury. I know they're going to take their time with that because, again, that's something that could linger.
Because calf injuries can turn into Achilles injuries.
Right.
And you don't want that. But he told reporters that it was not going to be a long-term thing. He did not practice on Wednesday. Again, does he turn the corner on Thursday or Friday in practice? If he does, then you got a shot. If he does not, you're probably looking at another week with Cam Jordan, who played well.
Yeah.
Who played really, really well. So I was more concerned about that injury than Trevor Penning going into week 1 because of the midweek game planning shift. But it didn't hurt them at all. I thought Cam Jordan was outstanding from the very first snap of the game.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see what happens there. You'd love to have Chase Young back, but if you got to go another week with Cam, I think they'll be okay.
How did Ratings play in your opinion?
Okay. I mean, it was fine. I thought I saw a stat graded-wise, the Saints were 13th or 14th in the NFL in terms of pass protection. They were able to run the ball effectively in the first half. I didn't see any major times where he was beat. The one penalty was, he's lined up on the tush push. You could tell that that's a team that doesn't run it very much. So when they're lined up, and look, if you really watch it, it was ticky-tack, but I mean, it's a huge. Everybody's pushing forward.
Right.
If you're the offense, you got to make sure you're behind the ball because that's such a significant advantage. But I thought all in all he was okay, filling in for Trevor Penning.
Interesting you say that the Saints are right in the middle of the league in terms of, again, where they were in terms of their blocking last week, because I really felt like that when you look at the mobility of the quarterback, that I thought that really helped the offensive line. When you look at Rattler was a guy that, again, was doing the short passing game and got the ball out quickly, but I thought, again, his mobility really stopped. Again, they only had one sack. I think it limited the sacks.
Yeah, I thought there were a couple design runs where he used his legs well. There were a couple scrambles late in the game where he used his legs well. I think he's an effective scrambler. I don't think he's a scrambling quarterback. I think he's a guy that when the lane is there, he can take it and go, and he's good at that. I thought the protection held up well. I thought the biggest growth for Spencer Rattler was he was felt like more prepared and felt like he had a plan for the blitz. I think he was only blitzed 6 or 7 times. I would think he had 4 completions on those blitzes. He wasn't as rattled as he was last year, where there was definitely panic button and all of a sudden his eyes go all over the place and he's trying to backside spin instead of climb up, or trusting his read and get to his hot route. So I thought there was certainly some growth there when it came to Spencer Rattler. His mobility was something that he had last year, and it's something that they're clearly tapping into this year. So look, around that red zone, there's going to be certain situations where they're going to call his number to run the ball, and I think he's effective at doing that. 27 for 46, 214 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, had 29 yards rushing. You talked about on much of your shows this week. I talked about it on mine. Again, the unwillingness, it seemed, to be able to, again, go after the Cardinals deep. They were playing a coverage to keep them having to go underneath. But not even, again, going after that next level, 0 to 10 yards pretty much. Again, that was really frustrating for me to watch. What did you see? And again, why do you think they did not challenge more? I thought we'd see a more aggressive and a more an offense that would be more creative, and we didn't. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty simple game plan. Right. I still think Kellen and Spencer are figuring each other out a little bit. I think he chose Spencer because he felt like he's more ready to play now, but I don't know if he has full trust to do everything that he wants to do now, as evidenced by the end of the first half, because that was a direct reflection of not quite trusting your quarterback in that situation, which he should have, because look what happened at the end of the game. Right. I felt like the way the Cardinals were playing, yes, they were giving up the deep shot. They were taking away the deep shots, but I felt like the second level was there. The intermediate was there. There wasn't a whole lot of play action, bootleg type stuff where you can kind of, roll out and really kind of reset that play and, hit an over route for 17 yards, or, hit a dig route for 15 yards, or maybe a deep sail route for 12 or 13 yards. There was the kind of the corner routes to Rashid Shaheed. There's a throw to Chris Olave, and there's a seam to Juwan Johnson. Other than that, that was it. I don't need, 8 deep 9 routes a game. I don't need that. That wasn't even the case when the Saints had Drew. They didn't throw that many 9 routes a game. But I do think there's an area, even when they're taking the top or they're taking the top away, where you can really get to just outside of that 0 to 10 in that 11 to 20 range. It takes a little time because you got to have the proper footwork, and you got to let certain things clear and let certain things open up. But I think that they have the receivers to certainly do it. And that's probably something, if Kellen Moore's being honest, he can really open up. Because, look, as clean as Spencer played and as relatively okay as the Saints played, and the fact that, look, you feel a little bit better because the way they finished, and it was only a 7-point loss. It was still 13 points, okay?
Right.
I'll give you 16 with the missed field goal, but that's not going to win you
Can't
anything.
win.
And you got a young offensive-minded head coach. To me, that even with this first game, I did expect more from the offensive standpoint.
I did too. I was honestly surprised, and it almost felt like, again, he was coddling the quarterback.
Yes, and honestly, I get that. I really do, because he was a 7th start. But at the same time, you did pick him. So if you got to have some level of faith in him to execute something. Hopefully, we'll see an advanced version, even if it's just a couple of things this week, to where it's not so. I don't want to say it was just vanilla, but it ended up being, based off what they called, a pretty simple game plan.
Really
Look at the passes. It was 0 to 10 yards. It was quick off the line of scrimmage. They ran a couple RPOs, but didn't feel like it connected much. And then, honestly, you got to get Alvin involved in the passing game. Look, if you're going to play that style, well, then use one of the best pass receiving running backs in the game. Get him on an angle route. Get him on a flat route. Get him on a wheel route. Do something.
The Niners do it, right? They do it this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is a huge advantage that you have, especially if you're playing that style of game. Let's get a matchup with a guy who can be dynamic in the pass game from 0 to 10 yards.
That's where I wanted to go next. They seem to abandon the run too early. I mean, again, when Kamara ends up with 11 carries, he had a couple of
13 touches total.
13 touches total.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to have more touches, but also there's got to be more commitment to the run. And then the other part of it is, again, you were just mentioning it. Look, they got fast receivers. They have to try to be able to at least test again the long ball. And because I don't know if these receivers will be able to last if they're going to have to go over the middle and take the pound that they're going to have to take if they're going to be short and intermediate routes.
Well, I mean, you still have to go there. You can't abandon that part of the field. The outside of the deep ball to Shaheed, I mean, that was the only deep throw I saw. There was clearly a miscommunication there. I guess you could say the one on the sideline in the end zone was kind of a deep ball-ish, but he threw that almost like a jump ball instead of put that on the back pylon, man. Let him run under that, because he's not 5'9". Rashid Shaheed is not out jumping somebody.
Right.
So that's just, you got to time on task. But and you're right. The smaller receivers work in the middle of the field can be an issue because of their size, but that's why you have Devon Vele.
Right.
And that personnel group, that personnel tweak, I think you will see this week. I think he will be on the field much, much more because, A, the size, B, when the Cardinals went man coverage, it was hard for those smaller receivers to get off the jam.
Yeah,
it was. Right. And you got a bigger receiver, he may not blow by anybody, but he can knock them off and maybe, box a guy out or, get inside position on a slant route or a dig route or whatever the case may be. So that was always the fear with these smaller receivers. And I thought that turned up pretty quickly in this game. The Cardinals played a little more zone than man, but when they went man, the Saints had trouble winning one-on-one matchups.
I often bury the lead on my radio and TV shows. The big reason why the Saints lost on Sunday was 16 penalties, 13 enforced. 8 pre-snap penalties, 3 false starts, 2 illegal formations, 2 illegal shifts, 1 offsides, had 11 penalties on the offense. Just can't have that.
Can't do it. Not a good reflection on the head coach's first game as head coach, because discipline is a direct reflection of coaching, because the discipline reflects on what you allow and what you do not allow. It's not by any means why I think they're lollygagging in practice or they're doing this or they're doing that. But I do think they were a little sloppy with their details, a lot of sloppy with their details. And, the pre-snap penalties, other than maybe the PI on Kool-Aid, which was a bang-bang play, there could have been another one. Maybe one of the motions where it was really close, where Olave may have turned upfield, but that crew calls it closely. Other than that, I thought all the penalties were legit.
Yes.
I thought they were all legit. So you just can't have that. And furthermore, some of those came when they got into rhythm offensively because they went tempo. What is tempo? Well, it's getting set and going fast before the defense is set or when the defense is all confused. So when you get a penalty there, you've negated all the advantages of the tempo.
Right.
Because now the defense can reset, the defense can call a personnel grouping if they want, they can call a play in, there's clear-cut communication, now you got to re-huddle back up. So to me, you kind of hurt yourself. You hurt the one thing that was working for you offensively, which is the tempo game, which is where Spencer felt like he was really settling nicely over. So that's got to get cleaned up. That's non-negotiable. I mean, they're going to go 0-17 if they have 13 penalties a game. They're not winning a game if that happens. They're just not good enough.
The defense is good, though. The defense really, it was impressive. And I really like Staley's system. Again, I thought he disguised a lot of calls. I thought he shows different looks. I think, he also used a lot of personnel as well, which I like. What are your thoughts on the defense? How would you come away with that defense thinking?
You know, I came away right after the game. I was like, man, the third and long was a problem.
Right.
But then I went back and watched. It was 4 third and longs that they gave up, which is not good. But when I went back and watched the game and really detailed everything and really went through sort of the ebb and flow of watching the All-22, I thought Staley called a masterful game. I mean, a masterful game. I mean, the last snap of the game, we did a film study on it last night on Game Plan.
That was a great breakdown.
I mean, what a great call. I mean, what a brilliant execution by Alontae Taylor, dropping 2 guys out when they're trying to run the shallow crosses, the mesh is underneath, and Murray doesn't see it. He's going right to the mesh. He can't get there because there's 2 big bodies in the way that it dropped out. And then, oh, by the way, Alontae's coming off the edge there to sack Kyler Murray. I thought he called a masterful game. I thought outside of the individual third down breakdowns, I thought Saints defense played well. They got after Kyler Murray, which is not an easy thing to do. And especially if you really watch the way they rushed, they weren't exactly rushing to get to him. They were trying to keep him contained, and if they got to him, great. And they still got to him 5 times. So a job well done by Brandon Staley. And I keep saying this guy's built for the modern game. The Brandon Staley types of defenses are the natural evolution of defense to combat the spread offenses. And now that's why you're starting to see certain teams kind of shift back offensively to the power game. But I think Brandon Staley did a phenomenal job. I thought he did a better job of calling the defense than Kellen Moore did calling the offense.
Cam, huge game. Again, when you talk about the sacks, the tip ball, again, I thought the team was much better against the run. You take away the 52-yard gash play by Benson, and again, they didn't really run the ball well. I mean, again, the Saints pretty much held them in check in terms of the run. And I thought Werner and Davis played well. I thought really, across the board on all 3 levels, I thought the defense played really pretty well. And I think that's encouraging for a Saints fan.
Of course, because I think they got to hang their hat on that. Because look, the offense is going to be a work in progress. I mean, it's just what happens when you have a young player at quarterback and a new system with a brand new head coach. Right. Calling plays. So there's a lot there. It's a lot different when you're an offensive coordinator calling plays versus a head coach calling plays. There's a lot more going through your head in those types of situations. So defensively, they're really going to have to hang their hat on. Not only that, Brandon Staley is a former head coach. So there's a little bit of institutional knowledge that I think he's just got it right now. So I think he's in a good groove, and I think defensively they're going to have to really hang their hat on that.
A couple quick notes on special teams. First of all, Groupie missed a 38-yard field goal in the third quarter. That touchback, again, was something that you can't have because the ball came back onto the 35-yard line. The special teams, if you watch special teams, man, there's a lot of new players on that special teams, a lot of young players on that team. But also, Kroger had a great game, the punter. He really did. 50-yard average, 51.5-yard average on 4 points, 2 punts inside the 20, a 54 for the long. I was impressed.
I thought he was outstanding. I mean, and look, we weren't sure, even after he quote unquote won the battle, that they weren't going to look elsewhere because they were still bringing in guys to work out. And I thought that was job well done. I thought actually both punters did well, Cardinals as well. But also, don't forget this special teams. Why the return game? Yes. Especially the kickoffs. Now the kickoff return is alive again. Yes. There's been a few times they broke a few. They get into the 35, get into the 40-yard line. That really helps when it comes to field position. No doubt. And
here's another thing. Again, watch when Kroger punts. He's a left-footed punter. He's got a counterclockwise. That ball's coming to the returner counterclockwise. They're not used to that. So again, that gives the Saints a little bit of advantage there. All right, I can hear my director, William Hill.
He's ready.
He's ready. He said, "Where's the break, man? I got to go to the break." We're going to hear from my underwriters. When I finish the Saints chat, we're going to talk about San Francisco and the Saints this weekend in the Dome. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports is our guest. All right, Sean, big one this weekend. A lot of people believe the Saints could have won that game, and they were right there at the end. Again, obviously, if Johnson catches that ball, they had a chance to be able to win that game. With that said, San Francisco's coming in. Man, they almost mirror each other. They seem like two teams that are constantly snake-bitten with injuries, and it's no different going into week 2. Tell us about, again, the walking wounded for the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, first off, you said, Saints almost won week 1. Man, the vibes that Saints get almost felt like they did win. Like there's an interesting vibe right now. I think this organization is very well aware of where they're at right now. And right now, games like Sunday, they're going to take against the Cardinals. But anyway, to this game. Look, they caught a break. Brock Purdy played well despite his stats last week. He really played well. 240-plus yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's not going to play this week. So on the surface, you would think you'd much rather face Mac Jones than Brock Purdy. But I think Mac Jones can be competent in this offense. I really do. This style has taken, this kind of offense has taken, B to C quarterbacks and elevated their play a little bit because of just how much is off the quarterback and how much is on the play caller. And Shanahan is obviously one of the best play callers in the business. So I wouldn't necessarily just take my foot off the gas or think, oh, they got it because Mac Jones is starting instead of Brock Purdy.
I don't think the Saints could do that anyway at this point.
I think Brock Purdy is a guy that can at least be somewhat effective within this offense. And guess what? This is Christian McCaffrey. So if he was hurting, and I know he didn't practice Wednesday, but that was more of a rest day. If he's hurting, well, I hate to see what healthy looks like because he had 31 touches on Sunday, 9 receptions, and I'm watching. I'm thinking, Kellen, did you watch this? This is what you need. This is what you need. Alvin Kamara doing right here.
Right.
And that's always where I felt like he beat you best.
Yes.
When is in the passing game. So that is going to be a challenge for the Saints in the way they use him, the way they move him around, the way they line him up, the personnel groupings they use, to where you could have a plan for him, but it's not always the easiest to bracket him. And I think Justin Reed said it best. I said, what do you think about McCaffrey? He goes, it all starts with 23. It all starts with 23. So he's a challenge. Then you have possibly Jawan Jennings. We'll see. They will not have George Kittle, who is as important to an offense from a tight end position,
there's no doubt,
than anyone in the NFL because of his running and his receiving and run blocking ability. But they do have this young guy, Ricky Pearsall, is actually. He's getting better, over 100 yards receiving, had some chemistry with Brock Purdy. So I think that's somebody you certainly have to have a plan for as well. We'll see what happens, obviously, with Jennings. Defensively, they're just as good. I will say this, though. It's not nearly as unique as the Cardinals scheme. There was a ton of post-snap rotation when it comes to the Cardinals scheme. They have a little bit of that with San Francisco, but for the most part, they run what they run. So at least from a understanding what the defense they're in standpoint, I think Spencer Rattler may actually have a little bit clearer picture, but their players are better. Their players are better on defense than the Cardinals, so it's going to be a tough battle. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Again, look, the Saints were really close last week. I know they got some injuries with the 49ers. Don't take this team lightly. No. Okay, I'm telling you right now, they're a good team, and don't look at last year's record either, because, again, much like the Saints were devastated by injuries, they were last year as well. No doubt. I'm not going to ask you for a win-loss, who's going to win or lose, but because let's just hope the Saints can stay in this game and be. Look, if they can be like it was last week, where they're in the game to the last drive, that's all you can ask for this year. They're rebuilding. That's where they're at. That's just where they're at, folks. Doubt. They're not rebuilding in Baton Rouge, though. No. The LSU Tigers are 2-0. Very disappointing, in my opinion, both Tulane and LSU last week. They took their opponents lightly. And again, if they truly have aspirations to be in the college football playoffs, you can't do that. Now, I understand you're looking at a situation where, again, you got huge turnover in rosters every year now with the transfer portal, and it's hard to get these guys on the same page. And look, maybe they were
so focused on game one, both of those teams, well, again, with big games to start the season, that maybe there was a little bit of a letdown. But Louisiana Tech, they gave them all they could handle. They beat them 23-7, but I thought the game was closer than the score indicated.
Yeah. I think you said something there that was key. You know, just watching some of the video from the LSU-Clemson game after the game, just how excited LSU was. The adrenaline was so high. The intensity was so high. The celebration was so high. They drained a lot of energy. Did not surprise me that they sleptwalked through this game a little bit. Just having to recreate that energy against the Louisiana Tech school who, you know, look, it's not a blue blood or whatever. It's not a Power Four, but that's always been a competent program. It's always been a program that's going to hit their mark. That they're always going to be a program that you can't just push over. And I thought they showed that. And obviously they played up. They were coming to Tiger Stadium. It was the home opener. LSU just looked like they just weren't there. It just the energy was not fresh. They looked lethargic. The offensive line is a problem if they cannot run the football. That's going to be a problem. Garrett Nussmeier did not look sharp. He started doing the kind of the rolly feet thing that he does, where you can almost feel like his feet are just moving a little bit out of control for him, and he was just inaccurate all night. They couldn't run the football. And look, you need to be able to win the line of scrimmage in the SEC. So they better be better this week, because that was not an inspired effort by LSU.
I felt like it was a byproduct of losing Braylon Moore in the first play. I felt like, again, the offensive line seemed out of sync when he went out. DJ Chester comes in. There's a huge drop-off there. There just is. And also I felt like maybe that Nussmeier was a little bit, again, not as confident in the offensive line once he went out. Now, the good news is, from what we understand, it's not a high ankle sprain. It may be a situation, or if it is a high ankle sprain, it's not a severe one. And again, he's probable for this week. I don't know if they play him this week or not, but again, he is essential for that offensive line to go. We saw that with again against Louisiana Tech last week, who doesn't have a bad defensive line.
What's the difference between last week and this week? I mean, you're going against Clemson that's got some first round picks on the defensive line. They play awesome. Week 2, what happens? Braylon Moore goes out. The drop off is obviously very real, and to the point where that I don't think that needs to be the plan anymore. If that happens, or if you can't go with Braylon Moore, I think you go with another option at the center position if someone is available. Now, clearly they feel like that's their best option. At least it was Saturday, but Brian Kelly, especially when it comes to the offensive line, is not afraid to change personnel in certain situations. And I wouldn't be shocked if that situation ever came up again if there was a different center to fill in for Braylon Moore. So hopefully he is back. They're going to need him. Obviously, Florida has got their backs against the wall very early in the season, so as does their head coach. But look, they gave it to LSU last year. I mean, they dominated LSU last year in the Swamp. A little payback time. This is a good get-right game if you're LSU. It's time to refocus. This is an SEC team. That's good, that's ranked, but beatable. If you want to flex that LSU muscle, if you want to be that contender, if you want to be a playoff team, these are the games you got to win.
128 yards on the ground, but kind of skewed. You had 240-plus runs from Berry and Thomas. Other than that, they averaged 2.3 yards a carry on the ground. Nuss was sacked 3 times at 8 quarterback hits. I think there was a service out there that said he was pressured 20% of the time on his dropbacks. They got to keep him clean.
But he has to do his part too, because sometimes what happens in that situation is clearly it was in his head. And then you start seeing stuff that isn't there. And I thought, especially in the second half, that really, when he ran into that sack in the third or fourth quarter, he was not this. This is just not his night. He's not seeing it. He's not comfortable with what's in front of him. And right now, even on plays where he gets sacked, it's not always on the offensive line. Sometimes it was on the quarterback. There were a couple times it was on the quarterback. So they got to get that synergy back, because they're not going anywhere if they don't get that back.
I would agree. And then, of course, injuries again hit the offense with Trey'Dez Green getting injured. Now, the good news is everybody thought it was an ACL. It's an MCL, and it's a sprain. So he doesn't need surgery. He'll be able to come back at some point, but he's going to probably be out for a couple of weeks. How does that affect this offense, in your opinion?
You saw it. I mean, they're putting 4 receivers on one side and Trey'Dez Green on the other. 6'7", 6'7" against Clemson. They just throw it up to the big guy. And he's got a basketball background as well. He knows how to go up and get it. And if he don't get it, he was getting PI calls. I don't think in the red zone there was a player that Garrett trusts more than Trey'Dez Green, to be honest with you. How could you not love that matchup? How could you not love it? So to not have him, that takes away a huge red zone option. So who steps up? I think it's going to end up being one of the bigger receivers. It was Anderson at 6'4".
Yeah.
I'd like to see something from, I know Bauer Sharp was used a lot in week 1. He had a couple of things here and there in week 2. But he's not going to be a go up and get it type guy. But, maybe he's a guy you can use up the seam. Maybe he's a guy you can do more than just sort of that kind of crack block and get out to the flat type that they've been using right now. So it's definitely something they got to monitor. There's no doubt about that. There is no other tight end that can do what he does.
Agreed.
But they do have a ton of wide receivers.
Yeah.
So even if it's not the exact body type and it's somebody else you turn to, Chris Hilton, please come back to me, please come back to me.
Agreed.
Then maybe someone should be able to step up in his absence.
Well, I tell you what, this guy reads my mind constantly. I swear, because it's the truth. They're so deep at wide receiver, they got to be able to find somebody in that group that can again.
And if you can't, shame on them. Shame on them. You recruit.
Right.
I never worry when LSU loses a receiver in recruiting because someone always comes up and someone always seems to dominate at some point. So I love what I've seen from Aaron Anderson. He's like, no, you brought all these guys and I'm still here. I love that mentality. He's got that run after catch that I love. So who else is available? You got Chris Hilton. You saw Kyle Parker doing some things. Some players. Look, we'll see what happens.
All right. Defense has been outstanding, and they continue. Again, LSU gave 154 yards, 96 passing, 58 rushing, 2.1 yards per carry. But again, 74 of 154 yards that Tech had came on that late scoring drive. They limited Tech to 3 for 13 on third down, forced 5 3-and-outs. I thought all levels of the defense were playing well. This defense looks like, again, it could be a championship-type defense.
Yes, and they need to be because, if that offensive line still remains a work in progress, you're going to have some uneven drives. You're going to have some uneven offensive play. So you're going to need elite defensive play to offset that. And they look like they have the workings right now of an elite defense, like the LSU defenses of old. And they've really, just think about how far they've drifted away from that. Even the 2019 LSU defense was not dominant. It's been a long time since they've been dominant. I love the combination at linebacker. I love the fact that they're using Carol Perkins finally in the correct way. I love the players up front. I love the additions on the edge. The cornerbacks are certainly they've plugged that hole. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, DB, you looks like it's back with
finally.
Yeah.
That was so embarrassing to have bad defensive back play at DBU. So I love where the defense is at. Certainly took defensive coordinator Blake Baker some time, but I think he's here now, and he just. That side of the ball, they're ready to explode on every play. And I think that's such the mentality that you have to have in the SEC.
SEC opener, Florida. Florida's 1-1. Again, they lost to South Florida last week, 18-16, an upset loss. They're going to be licking their wounds a little bit coming into Baton Rouge. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, it's going to be a game. It's going to be a difficult matchup. There's no doubt about that, especially if LSU is not crisp offensively. Now, in saying that, if they become crisp offensively and take advantage of a team in Florida that is struggling offensively, I'm talking about on the defensive side of the ball, then you could see a scenario where this thing can get away from Florida late and LSU can win handily. But I'm not predicting that yet. I do think they win the game. I do think it's going to be a battle, at least early on. But LSU has certainly got to, hopefully last week got their mind right. Look, we kind of treated the Saints' loss as almost like a half win.
Yeah.
But we treated LSU's win as almost like a half loss.
Right.
So maybe now everybody can even out a little bit and LSU can get the right mindset heading into this week.
LSU third in the AP, fourth in the coaches poll. I think they got 2 first-place votes in the coaches poll this week. So again, we'll see how that works out. Tulane got 9 votes in the AP poll. They're 36. 55 votes in the coaches poll. They're 27th there. They again. Look, much like LSU last week, 33-31 winner over South Alabama. They took that team lightly. You can't take a team lightly. But again, but they did enough to win the game. Your thoughts on the game against South Alabama?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Me too.
I thought they would take care of business. Because, look, obviously you beat Northwestern's huge. You beat a Big Ten school, but you weren't beating a top 10 team. You were beating, and you were at home. It was your home opener. It was your first road game. South Alabama, I go to that stadium every year for Senior Bowl. One of the most underrated stadiums in all of college football, an underrated campus just in general, just because it's South Alabama. It's viewed as a directional school or whatever. But they've got some players in that area that if you cast that wide net, you're gonna get some guys that aren't gonna be snatched up by the Power 4 schools. So they were ready. They were hungry. And I thought Tulane, they had to rally late, obviously, to stave off USA. Is that the right? Yeah,
yes,
USA.
That's right.
Yep. Hopefully a wake-up call. I mean, the motivation's there for this week, though, right? I mean, come on, the motivation's there.
Summerall's already planted the seed.
I mean, the motivation's there this week, right? I mean, they're going to try to downplay it, I'm sure.
Right.
But get back on track this week and do things.
Tulane goes down 14 early. I mean, I'm screaming at the television. What's going on here? Again, then they come back 27 unanswered points. They were coasting, let the Jags back in it. Again, of course, White gets the intercepts the 2-point conversion and saves the victory. Summerall wasn't happy. Again, he said he's never going to apologize about a win, but he said it was sloppy. Said they looked a little off, didn't look like themselves. But again, as Sean said, there could have been a little bit of focus toward this week as Duke comes into town. Duke loses to Illinois last week, 45-19. A guy named Darian Minson's their quarterback. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, obviously he left, and I know that hurt him a little bit when they left. They're all going to say the right things publicly, but I mean, look, they had really honed in on Darian pretty early last year when in the training camp. He beat out an older player to get that spot and played well, obviously. And then, NIL comes and they got him. And from what I understand, it was one of the higher NIL transfer packages.
If not the
biggest, was it $4 million a year or something like that? I remember talking about it when it happened, feeling like we're just supposed to smile and say this is the way it is now. It sucks. But Tulane clearly had to move on, and
they did pretty well.
And through some crazy circumstances, they may end up with a better quarterback, Retzlaff. And I think, look, it's certainly there's some motivation there, despite what they're going to say on the outside. I know Summerall's going to say the right things, but there's certainly some motivation there. And not only that, to beat Mensa, but also, hey, the guy we replaced you with is pretty good too. It might even be better than you.
Right.
So I watched the Illinois game. Mensa certainly had some moments. They did not finish that game well at all. Yeah. It should be a fun one for Tulane.
Yeah, and of course, again, they got Sullivan. Sullivan is back from the high ankle sprain. He got a couple snaps last week. Again, he's a guy that can fill in. The one thing that's maybe been a criticism of Retzlaff, and it's obviously got to get look. The guy got in late. Is again, he's throwing a hard ball. He throws bullets, and again, you guys played the game. You have to have a little bit. You got to have a little bit of touch. Yeah. Okay, at times. Okay, his ability to be able to scramble and run again gives another dimension as a dual threat. And look, this team has a tremendous amount of talent on offense and on defense, especially on defense, where I think, again, that's where they can hang their hat on. And look, this is another Power 4 conference team coming into Yeoman. And again, if you can get this game, this goes a long way in setting you up for the college football playoffs by getting, again, you can't be looking ahead to Ole Miss next week, and I don't think they are. I think they're focused on Duke because of the Mensa situation. But this could be huge, again, if they could get this win on Saturday.
Of course, especially you have 2 Power 4 wins on your resume, even if they don't handle business against Ole Miss, which obviously will be tough.
Right.
And then you take care of business in your conference. I mean, you could be that school, right? You could be that team.
There's no doubt.
That gets in. So absolutely. So there's a lot of motivation here beyond just Darian Minsah. I mean, if you are able to win this game, which will not be easy, obviously, but if you're able to win this game, just imagine the possibilities of LSU Tulane. And I should also say this. This wins again. They win again. They're 3-0. If LSU wins, they're 3-0. Let's start banging the drum for LSU Tulane again. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
You talked about it on your show the other night.
Overtime, yeah.
Overtime. I've talked about it as well. You and I have been advocates for this.
I've been talking about this for 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Bring it back.
And it looks like, again, up at LSU, they've heard the clarion call for this rivalry to come back. Talk a little bit about it.
I don't remember the exact contract the last time they came here back in 2007 when they played in the Dome. There was Jacques Doucet who talked to Verge Osbury. Verge obviously runs scheduling for LSU. That game needs to come back. And it certainly feels like both sides have now re-entertained the thought. Yeah. Is it a home and home? Is it a Superdome? I know Verge had said that they love playing in New Orleans. Why wouldn't you? Because it's a great fertile ground for recruiting, obviously, but also very close to Baton Rouge. If you play in New Orleans, it's basically a home game, even with Tulane there.
Right.
So, look, both sides want it. And more than anything else, it could be competitive again.
Right.
It could be competitive again, which is all we want. So I think it's time. You're in a new era of college football. You're in a new era of who's good and who is not. So let's embrace this new era with an old tradition. I mean, I remember back when I was at Christ the King at grade school. Every year for the LSU Tulane game, we either wore LSU shirts or Tulane shirts. It was a thing every single year. So hopefully that game can be brought back. I don't know when the soonest they could play, but it certainly feels like the wheels have been set in motion for that to happen.
It's a little different than what we've seen in the past, where again both teams or both schools didn't seem like again they wanted to get a deal done. One thing Osbury said was, he goes, I'm close with Harris, the athletic director at Tulane. I'm close with Summerall. We want to get a deal done. So that is really good news for bringing back that rivalry, and it should be. They want to play Louisiana schools. You should be playing Tulane. We'll say this, going back to Tulane again for one moment, because the running back position, Turner was out. And yet Mobley and Gordon played so well. One thing that Summerall's done, he doesn't just put a team that, again, this has a pretty good first team. There's some quality depth on this Tulane team across the board in terms of their skill position players, on defense. So, again, if there is an injury there, you can already see there's guys that can step up. And again, there's not a big drop-off.
No, there's no doubt, especially that running back room.
Right.
Tulane has had a run now, maybe under the radar, of good running backs, really good running backs that have played quite well. And I'll also add this, the fact you have not just a good, but a borderline great running quarterback, that certainly helps as well. So the run game is obviously something they're going to hang their hat on. The two-way run game with the running backs on the quarterback position. So I do think they are set up for success in that regard. So even if one guy is out, the next guy can step up. Plus, you have the added dimension of the running quarterback as well. Big
weekend for Tulane and LSU. Both with LSU starting again their SEC schedule against Florida. Always a big rivalry there. Obviously Duke coming in now, second Power 4 school that you could get a victory over, that go a long way. When you look back on week 3, we may look back at week 3 and say again, this is one of the defining weeks again for the college football playoffs for these two state schools.
Yeah. I would agree. I would say
it's been more for Tulane than
probably
LSU.
More for Tulane than LSU.
Right, but
I would think
still,
the rest of the path for Tulane is probably a little more manageable. The rest of the path for LSU, they got some dogs they got to play this year. There's no doubt about that.
But you can't overlook Florida.
No, you can't overlook Florida, and if they do, shame on them, because Florida is still a ranked team coming in here, an SEC school coming in here.
And beat you last year.
And beat you when they were down. I mean, it felt like Billy Napier was on thin ice last year.
He was.
Back on thin ice again, but still, they rallied and they played for him, and they beat LSU fair and square, handed it to them. So LSU has got to bring it this week. No doubt about that.
I will ask you about the two college games. Do you like Tulane and Duke? Who do you like?
Yes, I do, because I think Summerall's got it, man. He's just got it. He's got the pulse of the team. He's pushing all the right buttons. Even a game they don't play well, they still win. How many games have we seen Tulane lose like that in years past? I think there's a motivating factor two ways, both with Mensa and obviously beating another Power 4 school to get 2 Power 4 victories in the first 3 weeks. Are you kidding me?
That's it. And then
that'd be fantastic.
LSU, Florida.
I'm going LSU.
Right.
I'm very curious to see if this is going to be a close game, because I think if everything goes well, they could pull away late. But this could end up being a very close game up in Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge is the goal game. It's already sold out. Hey, Tulane fans, Yeoman is not sold out yet. Yeoman needs to be sold out. Okay, this again, your coach is asking for the sellout. Let's go, Tulane fans. Even if you're not a Tulane fan, you're a sports fan. Get down to Yeoman on Saturday. It's going to be a really good game. Sean, thanks so much for being with us as always. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. There's a QR code on your screen now that will take you to my website, ericasher.com, and also the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Here's a really easy way to be able to catch this program. We're on WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, and Pelican Sports Network. Set your DVR, you'll never miss the program. Also, again, I'm on the radio, 106.7 The Ticket, afternoon drive, 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, the 106.7 The Ticket has a website, as well as we also have an app. So again, you can download the app, you can take the station and the show with you everywhere. Other digital platforms, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app. Also, again, want to thank our folks here at WLAE and also our underwriters who make the show possible. Please support the underwriters who support our program. And also, again, the folks here at WLAE do an incredible job producing our program each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, best director on the planet, William Hill. For Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Join the First Tee of Greater New Orleans for their 20th annual Golf Classic on Tuesday, October 14th at Bayou Oaks Golf Course in City Park. This four-person scramble benefits the First Tee's youth development and in-school education programs. There will be prizes, raffles, goodie bags, and delicious food and drinks provided by top local restaurants. Register your team today at firstteenola.org or by calling 504-304-3309.
Hello, I'm Norman Robinson. Join me every Tuesday night of the month at 9:30 for Affordable Housing Matters, a show developed to educate the viewers in the New Orleans metro area with step-by-step basics of home ownership. Every show, we will bring in leaders and representatives to discuss topics such as credit counseling, home buyer training, mortgage lending, property insurance, fair housing practices, and so much more. Again, that's Tuesday nights at 9:30 right here on WLAE.